Welcome to today's question and answer session on LSC, on graduate programs at LSC. Before I begin, I just want to let you all know that this is a recorded session. So if you are comfortable being in the recording, you can keep your videos on and you can raise your hand and directly ask the question to the speakers. But if you're not, then you can put your question in chat or send it to us as a DM, and we'd be happy to take it anonymously. So yes, welcome to today's workshop on graduate programs at LSE. As you all would know, that the applications for a lot of programs at LSE are in this month and the next month. So a lot of anxieties and a lot of people have a lot of questions. So we realized that this was a good time to host a Q&A session for you to just to ask all of your questions, raise concerns that you may have with your applications about the application process, your final drafts, scholarships and funding. So we have with us three really wonderful people who've taken the time out on a Christmas weekend to speak to you. We have with us Salwa, who did the MSc in International Social and Public Policy at LSE. We have Bharati, who is doing an MSc in Gender by Research at LSE, and we have with us Sonam, who's doing an MSc in Human Rights at LSE. Uh, and all three are familiar faces. You've seen all three of them at one of our workshops. So thank you to the three of you for your continued support to our mentees and everyone who joins our workshops. Uh, so yes, I think we can start now. As I said, this is a Q&A session. There's no presentation, so please feel free to directly start with your questions. You can put them in chat or you can raise your hand and ask your question. This can be very specific and fairly general as well. So yeah. Okay, there's a question in my DM, which is on if you could speak a little bit about the graduate scheme, I think the LSE graduate scheme, which is a scholarship for international students at LSE, the graduate support scheme. Yeah.
I could speak a bit on it. I think there's also I think you guys have done a session before on the graduate scheme, so I would direct anyone who's interested in that towards that session for a person who got the graduate scheme. But from what I know, that there's a application within when you're applying on the LSE portal. They will ask you if you want to be eligible for the graduate scheme. You have a supporting statement again for that, and you have to really state your case as to why you require how that graduate scheme can assist in your studies. And I think to it's also like a first come first serve sort of basis. So they decide how much of a bursary or how much money they can give you, like a full scholarship or like a little bit, 10,000 pounds, whatever your need is. So for that, you really need to apply as soon as possible. So that's like my main advice if you are looking at the graduate scheme.
I must also note though that the graduate scheme is financial based, so it's specifically awarded on the basis of financial need. So that's one thing that you have to consider, that it's means tested and it's not assessing academic merit. So you will have to consider your financial background and a bunch of other things that you want to present to the graduate support scheme awards committee to be able to determine whether you're eligible for it in the first place. So it's not a merit-based scheme. I must mention that it's for financial support. And whenever you're applying for the scheme, try to provide as much as information about your financial background or your financial position, so that the awards committee can make a good overall understanding of how much of the amount should be awarded, because there's a range, so there's no fixed amount that they will award you. They will award you an amount based on the information that you provide. So I think that's one thing to sort of consider. And in terms of the deadlines, I think it's important to understand that there's a how to apply for the scholarships page that I'm going to put in. The deadlines are usually they open in January, and this year it's 2025. Sorry, 25th April 2024. So I'm just going to put that graduate support scheme link down so that you have a better understanding of the specific deadlines that are relevant. But this year, the next academic year, it opens in January and it closes on the 25th of April 2024 for those commencing study in 2024-2025.
Right. I've also dropped a link to the workshop that we did on the LSE graduate support scheme last year. And since the deadline is in April, we're probably going to do a workshop on it uh, next year as well, which is sometime in Jan or Feb. So if you're planning to make an application, or if you would have already made an application by then I'd suggest join the workshop. Um, There's another question that came to me on DM, is that other than this scholarship, is there any other scholarship opportunity at LSE that one has to apply for with the application?
There is the LSE Masters Awards that are also, I think those are again equally merit and need based. I think those go with the application. You are automatically enrolled into the LSE Masters Award. So that is another one of the in-house awards that are available to students.
Other than that, most of the scholarships will be external. So if you're applying for like the Chevening scholarship, for example, that you would have to apply externally, and then that 1 year degree would be applicable to the LSE course that you're doing. But if you're asking for internal scholarships, I think these are the only two ones that are available. In terms of funding, there's also student loans. If that's of consideration. So we can maybe, for those who have had experience on that, we can talk a bit about that as well. But in terms of like internal awards, I think these are the two main ones, and then everything else, like the Felix or the Chevening, will probably be external, and then it will apply to your degree.
Yeah.
There's Commonwealth as well, the Commonwealth Shared Scholarships. So those are specific to certain courses offered by the university. There's always a list that comes out. So you can always look at the list and see if your course of choice is eligible for the shared scholarship for the year. But other than that, it's all external scholarships, really.
Yeah. The other question is, does LSE consider an application fee waiver?
I think they do. They do. So you need to just email the specific department and basically again write a brief case of why you'd like an application fee waiver, and then I think it's a department to department.
And I also think that in the email you will need to sort of demonstrate that why, like how you're eligible for that. And on the basis of that, the department responds to it and your application is processed and it's taken ahead. Yeah.
Do note that whatever supporting documentations you put for the fee waiver, those documentations will not automatically apply to your actual application to LSE. So those are two separate processes. If you're applying for a fee waiver and you're providing supporting documents, you will have to provide those documents when you're actually applying for, say, the Master's Award or the Graduate Support Scheme. So those are two distinct processes, the fee waiver and the application itself. So in the case that you are applying for a fee waiver, please keep the same documents ready, or whatever supporting documents they require ready for your application. So just note that those are distinct processes and not combined into one.
I think there's a follow-up to that. What would ideally be considered as supporting documents?
So supporting documents aren't always required. They might ask you for supporting documents, and that will again be on the basis of your savings, your income, your bank statements, things that essentially demonstrate the need for a waiver. So that's something that you will be able to see based on the information that you provide as to what documents you require. But it's always good to sort of keep these ready beforehand before you apply for the waiver, just in case they require it. And of course, if you're applying for the graduate support scheme later, it's always good to have these documents ready.
Also, when you
Also,
are talking to the department, sorry, I cut you off, but
no, please go ahead.
also when you're talking to your department, they will most likely tell you what they need. So when you're just liaising with them, they're like, "Oh, this is missing. You could give this to us." So it's all about mainly talking to the program coordinator or whoever's the administrative point person in the department. So yeah.
In terms of supporting documents and information, even your background counts, in the sense that if you come, if you have humanitarian protection, if you come from a region of armed conflict, all of that is also crucial information. So it's not just based on your financial background, but also like other aspects of your life that they will ask you to provide, so that they can make a well-informed decision about your capacity and eligibility for the waiver.
Sonam, I think you had to add something. Do you?
No, I was about to say the same thing. So I think Salwa covered it. Yeah.
Okay, great. There's a question about a research proposal feedback, so I'll just take that if you're all okay with it. Um, Rakib, if you're not a mentee with us at Project EduAccess, you can send your research proposal to us at info@projecteduaccess.com. I'm just going to drop that in chat as well. We will try to get your research proposal reviewed by someone, but we're unfortunately at capacity, so I'm not sure if we'll be able to provide that support. But we will try to have someone who's from that field review your application. And if you're not applying this year and you're applying next year, then I'd urge you to apply for our India Graduate Mentorship Program when we open applications. There are two more questions in my DM. I can just read that and then we'll take the ones that are open. So the first is, I had a question regarding scholarship and profile assessment. With the scholarship, I wanted to know if the scholarship for LSE is submitted after putting or submitting the program application. And second, does LSE judge a profile holistically as opposed to other universities? Anybody want to take that? Maybe the second, if you could clarify the second part of the question a little more, what do you mean by holistically, then maybe everyone else would be able to.
Assuming holistically, they mean they're not only just looking at your academic performance, but also extracurriculars or things you have done that add to your value as a student to the university, then sure, yes, they do that. Um, so yeah, and also they look at your need based, like uh, how can they basically give you greater capacity to come and study at the uni. So from what I understand, they do that at the master's level. And for people who have received the master's scholarship before, it has been a combination of both, and they do look at applications holistically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the clarification, sorry, I know the
No,
clarification is that holistically being not just grades, but more so Sonam.
yeah, so I would agree with Bharati. I mean, speaking from my own experience, I like my grades were whatever the eligible criteria was, but I think that and also I think it's useful for the course which you do. Like I think my internships helped me a lot to like select the courses which I wanted to do in LSE and also secure an internship when I came here and everything. So I think it depends, and also it would help you to demonstrate why you are a perfect candidate for the course in your SOP as well. So it's not only about grades. I don't think that and in fact, not only for LSE, I think all the top institutes do consider everything in consideration. So yeah, I think that everything is needed and you need to have you need to demonstrate that in your SOP as well. Yeah.
Okay. The second is it's related to PhD. So it says that for PhD programs, the deadlines are on a rolling basis. But for one of the ESRC DTP scholarships, the deadline is 15th January. And for the final funding deadline, it's 15th April. If I'm not applying for that specific DTP scholarship, is it advisable to apply at a later deadline?
I'm not entirely sure about the PhD, but I had a friend who had applied for the PhD at LSE, and I believe she sent all of her applications by early Jan. Like, I think when all of the deadlines for Oxford, Cambridge, Edinburgh, like all of the big unis. So I would still say that sticking to the early deadline is more prudent because they do look at case by case basis. And yeah, it's always, I think, a better route to submit your application early.
Okay. There's a question. I think this is a follow-up on about emailing people. So the website mentioned that there's no specific email ID that we could write to. There's only an online form. Could you please clarify? Just if it's sorry, because someone DM me about this. They've gotten an application fee waiver for LSC, and for that they had to fill a form on the website. So they didn't email the department, but there's, I think, a form on the LSE website for an application fee waiver. And if you fill the form, then they consider your application. But I think if it's for other queries, then maybe the three of you could respond.
I think so. What was really helpful for me was they do these graduate drop-in sessions. So that's not emails, but they essentially have Zoom links where they have dates and times for when you can hop in, ask the graduate committee the more general questions about admissions at LSE. For me, that I found that really helpful because that meant that I didn't have to wait for a significant amount of time to receive an email response. So I can just sort of put those in the chat, but if Bharati and Sonam want to add to how they went about this, because it can be difficult to sort of wait to ask.
Yeah, the drop-in sessions were a thing, and I think there was also a chat session, like I think live chat session where you can just speak to someone in the admin department from LSE. Otherwise, I did liaise with the department a bit, and I, in my particular case, found it helpful to talk directly to gender department here. So
I've just put a link in the chat about contacting graduate admissions, and there's a section that says Zooming graduate admissions. That will give you information for the dates, the live chats, and opportunities available. This is both for prospective applicants, so those that are still in the process of applying, as well as for offer holders, which is at a later stage, but it's both there. I have a message in my DMs if maybe I can read it out because it's linked to one of the previous questions, which is again about rolling deadlines. I'm planning to apply in mid-January. Is this the same one that was covered, or I'm feeling a little late in applying? Do you think mid-January would be okay, or should I hurry and send my application by the end of the month? I would say the same thing. Try to apply as soon as possible, but don't compromise that on the quality of the application. So if you need maybe an extra week to get it reviewed or proofread for grammar or spelling or things like that, then that's okay. You can give it an extra week. Mid-Jan is still a good time. But competition is fierce, so early applications are encouraged.
And I also think that it varies from course to course. Like for instance, I remember the year when I applied, the Master of Law courses were like filled out by, I think by the end of the December, whereas like in this year, it's still open. So I think it varies, and it depends on the course as well. So like there is this one page where they show that availability and like how like when they might close it. So you should like keep checking that page, I would suggest, so that you know like what's the status of that course and how, like whether they're gonna close it or not. So yeah, but I think that for LSE at least, you should like sort of try to submit it as soon as possible. But as Salwa said, and I firmly agree with her, but like do not compromise with the quality of your documents. But yeah, like I would like in like one line, I would say that try to submit it as possible as you can.
Okay. There's a question in chat which is, do you have any tips regarding the statement of academic purpose? What is the ratio of academic versus extracurricular interest achievements that one should mention in the statement of purpose?
I can take that one. So I came to LSE after working for a while and having done a master's before and a bunch of different things. So when it came to writing my SOP, it was not just my academic experience. Frankly speaking, it was a lot of different things. And also like it wasn't that I was like had the best grades. Like they were all like within the criteria I met, but I feel like in my application it was what I did beyond everything beyond my academics that really counted, my professional experience if you've worked for a while and how that links up to the course you want to take or any volunteering experience you've done or even your life experience that you feel like is that can aid or like help basically like it all of it comes together and you're like, yes, this is why I want to study say health policy because something happened or why I'm interested in gender. Like there was a lot of so it was a very holistic process for me. So yeah, it was not just grades. It was pretty much like my entire life and how I can see all of those things coming together.
Does anyone else want to add to that with their experience?
Sonam, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I think I think Bharati covered the main points. And secondly, I think like every course page also gives you certain details and tips, like what do they want, and they sort of lays out certain questions. Try to answer those questions. And as Bharati said, that like she demonstrated how she, in like taking her work experience, at how she met those conditions and how she sees herself. I think that's very important. Like looking at your experiences, what you did during your undergrad or your internships or in your work experience, you have to demonstrate those things, that how you are meeting all of the questions which are laid down there. And also consequently, I think that with that you need to mainly demonstrate that why you would be the perfect fit for that course. And that might be because you have some work experience. What are your motivations which like sort of make you interested in that course, and what difference would you make if you would come to LSE? Yeah, so I think like this is what I have to say in this.
My experience, because I went straight out of undergrad, was probably slightly different in the sense that I did not have significant full-time work experiences to put in my statement of academic purpose, but I did, of course, put research internships or fellowships that I worked on during my undergrad. The thing about the statement of academic purpose that you want to take care of is that it shouldn't be a summary of your CV. So that's something that's important to note. Rather than sort of using it just as a means to summarize what you will already present in your CV, you want the statement of academic purpose to link how your former experiences have shaped you and prepared you to undertake graduate study at LSE. That's the main aspect. And graduate study at LSE as well as specifically that course. So for me, I picked a research stream, and that's why a lot of my academic statement was geared towards highlighting why research was something that was crucial to my career and academic trajectory, and whether it was modules, whether it was a research internships previously, that have helped me prepare myself to undertake the rigor of the course that I'm expected to encounter. So I think that one thing about academic statements is important, is that you're not just summarizing things that you have done previously, but you're really actively using that to link it to your course and your motivations to do the course.
Thank you. That was, I'm sure, very helpful. Um, there's one question which says, what curricular activity should we do for admission to LLM and LSE, not only to enhance my knowledge, but also help in admission? Because as a first generation learner, I'm very jumbled about it. I can perhaps start just to say that it's going to be very hard for us to cover what all you can do to get an admission in LLM program at LSE in this session. One, because like we don't have anyone who's done an LLM, and and secondly also because this is there's no like correct formula to like doing XYZ things that then makes you good for admission to a program. And also if you are someone who's fairly early on in their law school, the motivation to your extracurricular activity shouldn't be admission to LLM programs. I feel like this is the opportunity where you can really explore different interests and different extracurricular opportunities that your college offers. So I'd say don't think about, what can I do to make my application profile better if, in terms of specific engaging in certain activities. I'd say see what interests you, and then accordingly you'll find your passion, and then accordingly you'll find a course that fits you. And it may not be an LLM at LSE, it may be something else. But I don't think that's the way to sort of really channel your energies.
On
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just to like echo the same thing, it's the genuineness shows once like if you really put in your energies into activities you enjoy and you feel like, oh, okay, all of these things I've done, like, I'm further motivated to study an LLM. When you write your statement, you can speak about it with greater like nuance, genuineness, and that reflects in your application. People are able to gauge that, okay, yes, this person is, they actually like learned certain things about, say, legal systems, blah, blah, blah. And like that has encouraged them to learn more about and like gain a further qualification in law or something. But yeah, there's no cookie cutter way. Like I didn't know I would be doing an MSc in gender like 5 years ago. So it just kind of happened to me. And that interest came with time and with experimenting different things.
Just one note about extracurricular activities. I would still say like graduate admissions is focused, especially in the UK, I can't speak for the US, is focuses on academics first. So don't ever, like extracurricular activities won't compensate for your academic performance. I think do take care of that first, because your transcripts as well as your undergraduate performance is going to be the strongest indicator of not just admission, but also your capacity to survive graduate school. So I would say do focus on your academics as well, and then complement it with things that interest you, but don't compromise, don't use extracurriculars itself won't get you admission. I feel like your academic performance needs to be of a certain caliber and level to be able to show that you will perform well in the course first, because ultimately you're planning to study further.
Yeah. So I've done my undergrad in law from India. So I can like quite understand that why you asked this question, because I know in law school there's a lot of pressure that you have to do moot courts, you have to write papers, and you have to present and everything. And I think that that's from there you're asking this question. But speaking from like my experience, I think that you should do what interests you the most. I don't think that I was the person who did a lot of moot courts. I did not do any national moot courts, but I was very much interested in writing. Like that was my area, and I was very much interested in internships and mediation. So I made like I used to do that apart from my studies to like sort of relax, and it used to like give me a lot of space and present myself and like hone my skills and everything. So I would suggest that there is, and like seeing my friends around me who have done LLM, I don't think anyone followed a very similar, or any one of us, like people who are doing another courses as well after law, have followed any one path, or have done any one set of curricular activities and they have landed there. Everybody had their own expertise. Someone was very good at moot court, but they did not have any published papers. Someone was publishing papers, but they were not doing any moot court. So as Misbah and Bharati and Salwa said, that it's very important, like create your own interests. And I also firmly believe with one thing which Salwa said, that it's very important to focus on your academics, because if you know that, and if that's is one of your strength, then things might be a bit easier for you. So yeah.
Thank you all. There's one question in chat and a few in DM that relate to the English language proficiency test, so IELTS and TOEFL. So if you could just briefly like talk about how that works for LSE.
To be fair, I never, like, I wish I had. This is a regret I have. I wish I had fought for not giving the English language requirement. But I believe, again, there are certain ways, either there's a form or you talk to your department about like waiving the English language waiver. And if you're from DU and if you've done, I think if you've done your graduation and postgrad in English medium, you can get certificates from the universities saying that you have completed your studies in English, and provide that as supporting documents. And later on, if if LSE says that recognize these documents, we are waiving the English language waiver, that's fine. If not, they will come back to you and say, no, we need a TOEFL. But that's like a later stage. They come back to you about it much later.
The thing about IELTS, I mean, I didn't give one, but because my undergrad was from here, but what you do have to remember is that English tests must be less than 2 years old by the 1st October in the year you intend to start your program. So if I'm starting my program in October 2024, then I should have an IELTS that's not earlier than 2022 October. So that's just the 2-year limit that I know LSE follows for English language requirements. But every course is different, and you'll have to look at the requirements of each of the courses. Some MPhil PhD programs do not require English language testings, but that depends on the course that you apply for.
I gave IELTS, and I think that like one of the thing, Salwa pointed out very good point, that you need to give it like, it has to be within 2 years of duration before you start the course. And secondly, I think with respect to materials and preparation, I think if you just Google it online, there are a lot of resources available. And IELTS itself sends you like a practice test booklet. And if you practice that, mostly the questions are based on the same format and everything. And if you just keep practicing that, you will get better. And I think none of the question, or like they are not going to ask you the exact same questions which they are giving you in practice. That's for sure. But they do ask similar questions and everything. And if you just go on the website of IELTS, you will find a lot of resources and you can practice that. And I think you'll be fine.
So there's also the distinguishing factor, which I don't know if other institutions do, but LSE does, between standard requirements and higher requirements. Most social sciences essay-based degrees will require you to meet the higher requirement level, and some maybe mathematical numerical courses will require you to meet the standard level. So sometimes if you already have an IELTS score that you already possess, but your degree requires a score that is within the higher band, then you might have to either redo the IELTS or explain that to your department. It's not just about meeting or doing the IELTS, it's about meeting the cutoff that they have put down as a requirement in your offer letter and as part of your program. So that distinguishing factor should just be pointed out.
Okay. Yeah. Um, so I don't know if any of you have experience with writing the personal statement for the graduate support scheme. Because there's a question on just tips on writing that personal statement.
I did do it, but I didn't get the graduate support scheme, so I'm not sure. I think in hindsight, I would probably write with greater nuance why I needed the additional support. Also, the application in my year, which was last year, it was the website was very archaic. I think they've updated it this year. I'm not sure, but it was very confusing to me. But I would highly suggest you actually look at the workshop on the graduate support scheme. The person who did get it, probably have done a really good job of explaining exactly how to go about your personal statement. You have to be very detailed about why you need it, what are the personal circumstances that are not that are barriers to your entry into LSE, stuff of that nature. So it's a very subjective question. You need to it's your own story basically, and kind of have to be very detailed about your own life.
Yeah, I think yeah, if you watch the video, you might get a sense of what all to include in the personal statement because I'm sure that the speaker covered that. And again, as I said, we'll do another workshop on it, so just wait for that. The deadline is still still some time for it, so don't worry. Uh, there is a question which says, can I provide one reference from my current workplace and another from college? My 2.5 plus work experience aligns more closely with the course I'm applying for than my previous undergrad or postgrad studies.
Yeah, for sure. I did that. I did that. One of my references was from my first master's. My second reference was directly from my supervisor. Since I worked in a research related job, my supervisor was able to directly corroborate and basically give further details on how I was involved in the work and the project that I was doing. And they were able to back up basically what I had written in my SOP and essentially give a strong recommendation. So the idea is all of it should have like a flow, your SOP, your references, etc. So I I did it, and yeah, I think it was way more appropriate to have a work reference in.
Um, I can maybe say that because I applied straight from undergrad and also based on the course I applied to, you will see the term two academic references thrown around a lot. And I think that is something maybe I'll just clarify. Um, for my course, at least, because I went straight out of undergrad, I did not have work experience, but also the nature of the course, because it was research methods focused, at least for the social policy department. I provided references from my research methods tutors or seminar leaders and professors during my undergrad. A lot of courses might require you to focus on academic references in terms of being taught by an academic at a former educational higher education institute. So make sure that you read the requirements of what your course requires really well, because it's easy to sort of think that anything academic could go into research and then go into a professional space like a research fellowship that might not necessarily count as an academic referee. One of my friends applied for the MPA, which was a Master's of Public Administration, and she provided one professional and one academic, which worked for her because the MPA is designed in a way that allows you to focus more on hands-on practical consultancy experiences, for example. So again, I would definitely say look very closely at your course requirements. For some academic means it has to be from a professor who's taught you previously. Other times academic could mean like a fellowship or a research opportunity outside of your coursework.
Yeah, I agree with that because my reference, like I worked at an academic research organization and my course was again research led, similar to Salwa. So I made sure that my references very specifically spoke about research experience. So it's, yeah, the content and what they back you up is what's important in your reference.
Before I take more questions, there were a few that related to LLM programs, and as I said, we're not really equipped to answer questions that are very specific to uh, the LLM program at LSC. I think a lot of the information you'll find on the website, but we've also done a workshop already on LLM programs where we had a speaker from the UK as well as the US. So I'd recommend you please go and watch that video, and a lot of your questions will be answered there, much better than we'll be able to answer here in this session. Sazina, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, hi everyone. Yeah, so I have three questions about the application form. So one was the in the education section, are we supposed to mention just the university degree, undergraduate, or can we add the 10th and 12th boards results as well?
They don't generally require your 10th and 12th board results. They will directly ask you for your undergraduate and this thing. It is assumed that if you're in an undergraduate program that you have cleared your school exams. It's not really a necessary requirement. So I would stick to your BA, BSc, whatever, MSc if you have one, or MA if you have one. Just college results.
Okay, thank you so much. And my second question was, here in the application form in the document section, they make you check they make you sign a checklist where they mention that none of the documents contain electronic signatures or certificates. But my university transcripts were given to me on online, so they do contain electronic signatures. So is it a problem, or like do I have to go to my university and take my undergraduate mark sheets and get a ink signature?
May I ask what university you went to?
Delhi University.
Okay, I can answer this for you. You basically do have to get a hard. So, did you get a hard copy for your transcripts?
So like I have a per semester mark sheet, so that is electronic because we had one
Because of COVID, I'm assuming.
because of COVID, and the final like the final mark sheet, the final semester which contains all of the semesters and my
Yes.
final grade, that I had in hard copy with a stamp of the university. But like other semester wise mark sheets, I have electronic mark sheets.
Right. I think you can demand a full transcript with all of your semester grades from the university, and they will give you a hard copy. And that's how I went about it as well. I think I just put my final year mark sheet where you get all of your like transcripts, like the final one, with each of your semester grades, etc. So I just gave that, and I think I went to my college and I got it attested, etc. So I basically took hard copies, got them attested, and then I put that up for my LSC app. So I would suggest going to your college or going to the university and getting hard copies of your documents, scanning them, and then putting them up.
Okay, okay, thank you so much. And my last question is if you LSE LSE is LSE, so LSE do mention that we can apply to multiple courses, like two in one education admission cycle, and in terms of preference, and they mention that if you are applying for a second course, so they do require a different statement of purpose. So what about the references? So if you are applying for multiple courses, do we need to apply references for the second time as well, or like one references, like the two references that we're applying for the main course is enough? So like two different SOPs and the same references, or two different SOPs and different references as well for the different courses?
So I did that, but it's highly what do you call encouraged that you apply for very similar courses. Like you can't be applying for a MSc in statistics and an MSc in gender research. Like those are two different motivations, two very different courses, two very different paths, academic paths, disciplinary requirement, discipline like commitments, etc. So for example, I had applied for gender research as my first course and the gender development and globalization. as my second course. So I amended my SOP slightly for the second application, and my references were, I could use both of them for both applications without changing much. So it did not, I didn't want to give in too much work to my referees as well, so that they can just give in a reference and that's that. So I would suggest if you are applying for a second course, it should be very closely related to, like, in terms of discipline or department, ideally in the same department, or say adjacent. So it's sociology and gender, or it's sociology and anthro. So, it's not completely out of the blue, like why you're applying to two different things. So, but yeah, if you're applying to two different, like, it depends on what your referees write. If you have access to what they're saying, you can maybe ask them to amend the references slightly so that it matches your second course better. That's
Yeah,
about.
both the courses are from the mathematical sciences only. So one is data science and one is health data science. So both are particularly same, like 70%. So that is not an issue. I just wanted to clarify on the references parts. Like, do we have to provide 4 in total or 2 will work?
Two should be fine. I had
Okay.
provided two. I did not give 4.
Okay. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
I don't think that
I,
they require you to give like separate references. I think they also, because they send the link directly to the professors and they are the one who writes and uploads it. And also, I think it says that for my course, at least, it stated that they would be asked few questions as well, like how I was as a student. And I don't know the other questions, but I think those were the questions which were being asked to them. So I don't think that like the referees would need to provide two separate references for your course choices. I think that they would just need to provide references like why you should be admitted to LSE, and secondly, the questions which would be asked to them. Like I'm sure that that would be sufficient for as per the requirement, because I also applied for two courses, and I think that as far as I remember, and I think that I remember clearly that only two references were being asked. So yeah.
Thank you.
The thing, sorry, go ahead. Oh, okay, the thing about
no, I was just asking a follow-up question on the earlier one, just to clarify. So it's the same application fee when you apply for both courses, right? Or is it separate? Do you have to provide an extra application fee for the second course, or is it just one application fee up to 2 courses that you apply?
precisely the
All
second
right.
one. You apply once, you have two course choices, and you submit one application fee for one application in one cycle.
Yeah. Thank you. And sorry for interrupting. Please do continue.
No, I just wanted to echo the same thing, that a lot of in social sciences, there's so much overlap between the skills that you bring to the table for a bunch of courses. It's likely that your referees will comment not just on your substantive preparation, but also your methodological preparation and the transferable skills you bring to the table, research writing, and all of that will be equally compelling, even if you're applying to two courses that are from like different departments. One of my friends applied for my course and then she applied for the MSci Human Rights, and she asked for a reference from a human rights professor and someone who taught her public policy, and it worked completely okay because within the broader umbrella of doing these courses, a lot of the things that you develop through your undergrad, the modules you take are overlapping. But I will echo Bharati and Sonam as well and say that I applied for International Social and Public Policy Research and International Social and Public Policy General. So mine was not two different courses, they were two different streams within the same course. So my references were more than applicable. And for the personal statement, they give you an option. There's a box that mentions if you want to use the same personal statement for both course choices, or if you just want to provide two separate personal statements, and that's on your discretion. So if you feel like you want to provide a better SOP for the second one, you are able to do that. But one thing about two courses is that if you are admitted to your first preference, your second preference will not be considered. So if I got admitted for International Social Public Policy Research, then my general stream application will not be considered. So just remember that your first preference is what you're applying mainly for. And in case you're unsuccessful in your first course choice, then they will consider you for the second one. But you can't pick or you can't get two offers. You can't hold two offers at the same time.
Great. I'm okay. I don't know if you answered this question. My college referees don't have official email IDs. The college doesn't provide them for all faculty. Will this be a problem?
I think you should email the department or the admission team, or use the live chat option which we discussed earlier in the beginning of this Q&A session, and ask them, because like like I think this matter that the college is not providing them is different, but I have heard and I know people whose professors left the college and went on to do their other work. um, they had given their personal email IDs and the department did allow them, but also it depends on a lot of factors which they considered. So I'm not sure about this, but I think if I would have been in your place, I would have emailed the department and maybe chat about it on that live chat thing. Yeah.
I just saw this one question that we didn't, two questions that we didn't answer. One, Salva, is I think for your course, is there an age barrier for the MSc International Social and Public Policy? What is the average age of the class?
So no, there's no age barrier. I went straight out of undergrad. I was 22 when I started my course, and then somebody came to LSE for the same course after 3 years of working, and they were 25. So there is no age barrier. You can do the course whenever you feel fit. I know the MPP at Oxford, for example, and we're not talking about that, but that has like a lot of senior civil servants or individuals who had a very significant trajectory, but also individuals who come from straight out of undergrad. So I think, especially for public policy, you can take it up at any point. And the average age of the class, I mean, I haven't done a mathematical calculation on this, but I think it would be around mid 20s average. And then there are people who are older than that who work for say 5 years, 4 years, and then people like me who are the younger end of the cohort who went straight out of undergrad. So no, age is not a barrier, and I think that's true for most courses at LSE. You can really take it up at any time. And that should be the average age of the class, about mid-20s. But don't let that deter you. I feel like as long as you're passionate about something and you want to pursue it further, why not? I don't think it should be a barrier at all.
The other one which we've not, I forgot to ask is so I did very well in my master's, but my graduation scores are not so good. Does that affect my candidature?
No, I had the same case, my graduation, where I just barely made it to like the first div or something, but my master's course was really good. So my application was judged like holistically for sure. So my first master's grades were much better. And the way I think I wrote my SCP was that I found my niche, my academic niche, once I entered my master's, and that's why like my academic performance improved and blah blah blah, and that's how that informed my professional choices, etc. So I don't think that should deter you. What you got in terms of applying, just yeah, just make sure that you're just meeting the eligibility criteria, like at least for undergrad, but they will also consider your postgrad level. Like I did meet the eligibility criteria at an undergraduate level, but it was just barely, like by a hair. So it was mostly, I think, my master's course as well as the professional experience I had that really boosted my application, if I were to think of it retrospectively.
Okay. Okay, there's a question on placements at LSE. So after your master's graduate program, how are the placements at LSE?
Not much. Like it depends on your course, honestly. If you're in, I think, finance and all this, or there's a culture of placements and stuff of that sort. But speaking for gender, there wasn't really much, but we did have like in-department programs, etc., where you could directly speak to alumni and understand their professional trajectory after what do you call doing the course. There's also a very robust careers department here, LSE Career Hub, and you can what do you call seek all kinds of advice from them directly about the path you want to take, CV assessments, cover letter assessments, interview practice. So there's that kind of support that is available, and it's quite good, in my opinion. Also, like there are certain programs at LSE that are, for example, I think the MSc in Development Management, which has a consultancy component in it. So people are matched with particular organizations and they do a 6-month consultancy as part of the program that's created. And that is a lot of people end up finding jobs through that. So if your program has a consultancy component, then that's something that um, is placement adjacent. It's not exactly it, but yeah, that's the kind of career support you get.
So LSE also has a graduate internship scheme, which is basically for recent graduates. If you graduated within the past 24 months, then you're able to apply for the graduate internship. That is a sort of a placement where they place you within LSE in research institutions that are part-time as well as full-time opportunities. I'll just put a link to that. And this is specifically for LSE graduates to sort of get into employment and start working after your degree is complete. So this is actually for people who graduated already. So it's once you finish your course that you can apply for it. So if I finish my course now, I can apply for it in this application cycle. And they place you at research institutes. There's a Center for the Analysis of Social Exclusion, for example. That was a center that I worked for and I was linked to. So that's an opportunity that you can make use of.
Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, I'll just add
yes,
one thing.
yeah.
Sorry. I think, like Bharati already mentioned, at the programs where you get to meet the alumni, I think for me personally, it really helped me. I secured my internship through that, and I actually like one of the alumni, she did the same course as mine. We had like very similar um career path, like till now, like for instance, like an academic path as well. So I think it really helped me. And also, as I'm trying to pave my way into like human rights law field as well, I think there are constant sessions which are happening. And also, if you go to the career hub, there are mentors who are specifically specialized to deal within your field. For instance, for human rights, there is this one consultant who is very good at it. And if you just go to her and you let her know, like, what are your career goals, she will be very happy to help you out. And I think for me personally, it really helped in like very tough days. She has really calmed me down, and she has really made me like less anxious. And so I think the LSE Career Hub is very good. But as well as a student, I think it's very important that you do attend those programs. Try to connect with those people on LinkedIn, or via email. You have to reach out to them to get the internships and everything. And like for instance, I reached out to her and I was like, oh, I really like you and your work, and I would really wish to work with you someday. And then she was like, oh, I have one internship opening, so if you want, you can apply for it. And then I did, and then I had my interviews and I cracked it. So I think it's very important as a student as well to be involved in these kind of events and programs. And yeah, I think at the end, everything works out.
Great. So I don't think we'll be really able to take questions that are related to like more what you should be doing, um, and just more about which course to take, and that relates to future plans for studying at LSE. Um, I think the, I mean, the point of this session is that if you're applying now and if you have, specific queries in relation to your application, this is the place to sort of get them clarified. There's one question that I think is important, which relates to teacher strikes, and I think for master students this is important. So they're saying that someone they know who was a 2022-2023 graduate chose electives based on their teachers' availabilities rather than their interest. So that does influence your experience on the program. And so would any of you want to take?
It did. We did lose significant amount of teaching hours. I will say that, and I think some of my courses they were readjusted, so we didn't lose what do you call the course content per se, but I did lose like extra hours in terms of seminars or access to professors, or it did. I think it significantly impacted how essays are marked and stuff of that sort. So there's only so much you as an individual can do to mitigate uh, damage to like whatever the strikes kind of impact your studies, etc. But I would still say go and do the courses you like to do and like have a chat with the professors. And I don't know how the strike action will be this year. I'm not sure how intense it is. Last year it was very intense because the conditions were quite bad. So I would just say that check the UCU websites for dates, etc. They normally have strike action dates up in fairly in advance for every term. But there's not much you can do in terms of like you could choose courses where departments that are not striking or stuff of that sort. But yeah, I did lose some of this thing, but I think we had a lot of teach outs. Like my department, for example, had a lot of engagement with like why strikes happen and stuff of that sort, and that was educational in its own way, I think, and it really brought the department together for us. So yeah.
And also, I think for like one of the courses which I did within my department, that was sociology. Our professor like pre-recorded the lecture and made it online so that you can have access to it. And he was very open to like having discussion on those like courses about which we missed the lectures during his office hours. And also you can write an email about it as well. So I think that that professors like even though there were not lectures happening or we were missing out on seminars for sure, and office hours as well, but they were also very ready to accommodate those interests if you are missing out those lectures. And uh, I really loved when Bharati said that about the teach outs, because I also used to attend them because like my course directors were part of those teach outs, and they were really very encouraging. And I think a lot many times it would align with the lectures which you are missing. So yes, and I think that like when you will be doing your reading and everything, and even if lectures and seminars are not happening, your professors during their office hours or maybe during further lectures where you can sort of relate to those topics, they would be happy to have the discussion about it, and they were happy to like help us, like at least in my case I can say that. Yeah.
I think what I'll add though to this is that very often we consider teaching as like a student-teacher relationship, in the sense that you go to class, you learn from the teacher, you come back. I think what I learned with the whole year at LSE was that teaching was very like you could do it in various ways. There was LSE Live that would help you how to write better. There was peer support groups that you could learn from your peers and really help them understand the things that modules that you are good at, and then learn about things that you want to have a better understanding of. There was also like these drop-in sessions that they had, at least for my department. So and I also went to professors at other departments. So I went to the law school because my dissertation was on social legal studies, and they were really open to office hours and really open to allowing me to chat about things that my own professors might not have been able to at that time. So I think don't, when you are at the institution, don't limit yourself to just that one teacher or that one module. Like try to expand and use all the resources that the institution has available as a whole, rather than just limiting your studies to taught modules or seminars. That's what helped me a lot during the strike, is to use diverse resources to be able to work on my dissertation, for example. So you have those resources available to you, and I would highly recommend using them.
And also, I think for at least one of my courses, which was with Department of International Development, uh, there was this PhD candidate as well who was like teaching us, and he was really open during the strike time because we did miss a lot of lectures, and he was happy to have the discussion during his office hours, and he was in the campus. So yeah, it will. I think that like if you really invest your time and everything, even though strikes were going on, there were a lot of opportunities to learn, and there are also like public lecture series going on in various departments, which might be of your interest and which might align with your like courses as well. So you can attend that as well. So there are a lot of things happening at LSE for sure, always.
Yeah, thank you for that. And also, you're in London, so that also gives you
Yeah.
access to many more things than just LSE and the universities and organizations and libraries. And so there's always a lot happening in London as well. Uh, I think this is going to be the last question that we take because I don't see any pending questions. If there's a question that you put in chat or send to DM to any one of us and that hasn't been answered, please just put it in chat again. And I'll just read this question out, which is it advisable to apply during this holiday season or should we wait until everything opens?
There's no deadline. You can apply for it whenever. I think just don't wait for the holiday season or anything. So just send it whenever you want.
I received my offer during the holiday season, so I feel like they're very much working the more because they have more space because the term rush doesn't get to them. So a lot of admissions work happens even during the holiday season. So please do apply during the holiday season.
Yeah, Musab, you can ask your question.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. So, is there any way that I could get an exemption for like GMAT and GRE since I'm applying for MSc Finance? So, is LSE too much rigid about it? Since I already have an MBA in finance, right? So, and also I'm setting for CFA level 1 in 2024. So, like, there are many universities they consider like CFA level 1 and they exempt you from GMAT and GRE. So, I'm not sure about LSE.
I'm not sure whether I'll be the right person to answer it because like I have no idea about because it was not required for my course. I think Bharati or Salwa can take it.
I am
I
not
had a
sure as well. Yeah.
I had a friend who did the applied for finance master. So it is the minimum entry requirement is to give the GMAT or the GRE if you do not have a UK undergraduate degree with the GMAT that's strongly preferred. And I think the reason they ask for this is because they want a standard set of quantitative skills that they require before you sort of enter the course. But if you already have done quantitative degrees in the past, I think it would be best to email them and ask them if that would count as an exemption. Just because in the minimum requirement, it's mentioned that a GMAT is required, less than 2 years old. Sorry, less than 5 years old. So that is a requirement that's mentioned on the page. So I'm assuming that it is necessary. But if you do hold previous quantitative degrees, I would say just do email the department and check with them if that would constitute an exemption from the GMAT. But I would still believe that it would be required if it's laid out on paper in the entry requirement section.
All right, thanks.
Great. I clearly underestimated the number of questions that would come up.
There's a question about switching streams in the sense that if your background is different from your final course. The last thing I would just say is that as long as you justify how that's linked and how you're prepared for it, you should be fine as a general thing. A lot of courses at LSE are flexible, that they're open to people from a lot of backgrounds, so you should be fine. No particular undergraduate degree will be at a disadvantage for the breadth of courses that are available.
Great. I think that's it, right? No more questions. Great. Okay. Thank you, Salwa, Bharti, and Sonam for being so patient and answering all of the questions in such detail. I'm sure this is going to help everyone who watches the recording and who joined us today. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. All the best with your LSE applications.
Thank you for organizing this. This is good.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you so much, Misbah, for inviting us. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye. Happy
Bye.
holidays, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. You
Yeah.
too.